Welcome to the Music Production Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Funk. On today's show, I have Alex Akimov, who is a musician. He's a digital marketer and a manager, music manager. He has launched the site Simple Social, which is a music digital marketing service. He's got the new Sound.me, which is an AI-powered artist creator platform for EPs or singles. And he gave some great advice on just what artists need to do to get their music heard these days. I hope you enjoy the show, and please welcome Alex to the podcast. All right, Alex, welcome to the Music Production Podcast. Great to have you here today.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you. You have a lot of experience in the music industry, right? I mean, you started out, which I always like to see when people are involved in the business end, they start as musicians, and you were a touring guitarist.
Yeah, we all start. Everybody's starting as musician, DJ, producer, singer. So it always starts like that. I think for everybody we were working with, they all started musicians at some point. But I've been a musician, I've been a manager, and now I'm a promoter. So I kind of understand it from every angle you can possibly imagine.
Right. Yeah, well, that's always good because things don't usually work out in any field really without that kind of, foundational background to know what it's like and for the people that you'll be serving ultimately.
Yeah, of course.
And you're doing quite a lot to help artists promote themselves and get the music out there. You've got a couple companies. So we've got Simple Social, SoundMe. You've also got your own YouTube channel where you're doing a lot of nice tutorials and information about how to get heard and ideas, albums versus EPs and singles and stuff like that. So quite a lot of information there.
Thank you.
Right now, what would you say is like your big focus? What is the thing you're working on the most these days?
Sound and Simple Social. So those two companies. The company is the biggest focus right now because we are. I'm doing the whole rebranding. And I'm doing the whole, we're changing, revamping the websites. It's just, trying to make everything better, everything more, user-oriented, promoters-oriented, so we trying to, that's been the main focus, how to basically get it to the next level, next point, and try to get, try to get better at it. Because we're always trying to get better, right? That's our main goal. We're always trying to get better.
Yeah. It's a good philosophy to have. We are in a wild and crazy changing time these days, whether it's AI, social media, you name it. What do you think artists need to be doing differently these days? It seems like the landscape changes overnight all the time now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's driving me crazy too. So not the only one, because you always, every single time we're trying to get things done and we're trying to, okay, I finally found what's working. It's like, boom, it changes. And it's complicated. I'll be honest with you, it's complicated. That's why so many people quit and they just can't sustain it. It's hard to be an artist, really hard. And you have to put out so much music and so much content. That's just crazy. Like, if 2 years ago, artists could be like, yeah, I don't feel like posting. I'm just going to release music. People are going to like it. Right now, you're just going to be smashed pretty fast by somebody else who's willing to do the content. And it's just really hard to get discovered now, really hard to get through. Hard and easy at the same time. Hard because you have to produce a lot and you have to be on top of it. Easy because if you're doing something right, the algorithm is going to pick you up and take you to the next level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have that kind of blessing and curse, double-edged sword that we can reach anyone in the world, but that means everyone else can reach everyone in the world and creates quite a lot of noise and traffic everywhere.
Absolutely.
Now, as far as things today, like what you mentioned, right? Like if you want to be an artist, you're not just being an artist anymore. You don't get to just work on your art. There's so many other things that you got to think about. What do you recommend people focus on? Because I guess you can't really do everything, right? You got to sort of make choices somewhere along the way.
I would. That's a good one. That's a good question. I would say my recommendation would be try to figure out how to optimize your time. Try to learn time management. And it's been really hard for me as well. As the artist, I didn't care that much because back then when I was a guitar player, it used to be MySpace and YouTube just came out and things like that was so new. But to me, as the entrepreneur and as the business owner, it's all about time management. How you manage campaigns, how you manage people, how you manage your time, and how you manage, to meet people's expectations. So it's like, if you look at yourself from the business point of view, right? As the business. So every artist, I think, should do it. Should look at themselves as the business, because that's what you are. You're trying to sell product to people. You're not just going to be there, running around being like, oh, everybody listen to my music. I don't, it has to be your business, right? You're trying to make money from this. You want success from this. You're trying to make a living out of it. So you are a business. And every single time you invest in this, every single time you put time into it, it's investment in your business and your future. In this case, you are your business, so you're your own asset. But in other cases, it's just, for businesses, it's other things that they do. But in your case, you're an artist, your music is your asset too. So, and you have to figure out how you're going to maneuver your time, and figure out how you're going to, you have to post, you have to write, you have to compose, you have to produce, you have to make videos, you have to go perform the shows, you have to, talk to your fans and do all this kind of stuff. So, and if you figure out how to manage your time properly, you're going to be able to do that. And also, God, I started to, like, my main goal and my main thing, right, is throughout the whole year has been time hacking, right? I'm always trying to hack my time, and time is the most valuable thing for me, right? And I'm always trying to figure out how I can hack it so I can do multiple things at the same time, so I can just deliver more results being myself, right, and do much more just by myself versus other people, what their capability is. So I'm always trying to push myself farther. And to me, I recently actually started to get into mind mapping, which is a very interesting thing. And I think it will be really, I don't know if you've heard of it. Have you?
Now, is this the kind of like visualization of something on a paper or on a screen where you're planning out ideas?
Yeah, and you kind of break up,
visual
and I think
aid?
for the artist, it will be super helpful. I started using it with other artists that I have a little bit, and it seems to be working really well, because you can map the idea, right? I need to release a single, right? So, and then you put everything on the map in front of you. What else you need to do besides just one single, right? Content and everything. And it's just kind of like the whole picture becomes very clear about what you're going to be doing and how you're going to be doing. So that's what I think is important.
Is this on a piece of paper? Is this on
an iPad? But you can do it on a piece of paper. You can do it on a table, whatever you want. Just sticky notes on the whiteboard, some stuff like that. Freeform from Apple. Something that's easy just to visualize everything. You look at this like from the whole perspective. It's like, all right, I'm releasing an album, right? I'm releasing a single, and you look at this everything's right in front of you, so you can see exactly what movements you need to make and how to get to them.
Right. So you're basically breaking this big goal into a lot of sub goals and steps to get there, and then I guess follow up steps too, because you're talking about promotion and getting the word. It's a great accomplishment to release something, but there's so much that aside from that goes into it. Otherwise, it just kind of gets heard by a few relatives or something like that.
100,000 songs a day uploaded to Spotify. I think by the end of this year, we're going to be at about 150,000 a day. It's a lot of music.
It's a lot of music.
How you compete, how you get yourself heard, why? And I think that's where the digital advertising comes in. A lot of people don't believe in it, but I think it's very foolish, because you pay for the algorithms, you pay for the right promotion, you pay to get yourself out there. And when people come and when people trying to release their song and trying to get heard, you have to pay for it in the beginning, especially. So you're trying to teach the algorithm, you're trying to explain to it what you want it to do, because at the beginning it doesn't know.
Right. So you're saying just to get eyes on your song or your video or whatever it is you're promoting.
You have to. Otherwise it's just not going to work. It's really hard to get through the noise. You either have to be so incredible, which is it's 1 out of a dozen, or you have to be not even that. You have to be talented, which is 1 out of a dozen. You have to be great, which is 1 out of 100, and you have to be amazing, which is 1 out of 1,000, and incredible to get everything handled to you by the algorithms and organically. You probably 1 out of a million. So it's really rare and it's really hard. So, but more people who are talented make it than 1 out of a million. Because those people are actually grinding. And one super talented person, like one genius, that might not get discovered, because they're just going to get overpowered by people who's hungrier than them.
Yeah, that's old expression. Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
Of course, that's good
Right.
one.
You
Very
know,
true.
seen it lots of times. Very talented people without the work, or on the other hand, people that don't have the same natural skills but just work at it
Yeah,
consistently.
absolutely.
It always seems to be the way.
Yep.
I think that's comforting, really, right? Like, you can't control the natural gifts you're given and born with, but you can control the effort you put in and the work and the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And as long as you grind, because I have no like natural talents like that, like I was never a data scientist and things like that. I developed it. I studied hard and I was working really hard in order to get it going. And I was be able to figure out how to do that.
Right. Well, I guess that's definitely part of your background as a whole, right? Because I've read your bio. Maybe you could just tell people a little bit about how you wound up here in this position from moving.
To go short is I started as the guitar player back in Russia back like 17 years ago. Came to study music here, wanted to tour the world and become famous, how everybody else does it. Toured the world, but didn't become famous. And then got pulled into being a manager of a boy band. And my realization came because I always been into I always wanted to have my own business. I always wanted to build something and be like, hey, how do I promote something? How do I build something? How do I make my thing, my music heard? And when I had a boy band, I was trying to find companies who would do a good job for real, right? Because everybody started, it was back in 15, 16, and everybody was saying, hey, you need to get Spotify streams. You need to get, all this stuff. It's starting to come up. Instagram followers used to wait a lot of a lot for the radio plays and for anything, how many followers you have. So that started to pick up. And I couldn't find a company who would do it. Everybody would bring in fake followers, fake bots, basically, like everybody bought it. And I was like, all right, well, if I can't find anybody doing it, I'm going to have to do it. I'm going to have to sit down and learn it. So that's when it was my first effort to start learning it. And I got pretty successful with the boy band, right? We got, back in 2016, we got 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. And 100,000 subscribers back then, it was a lot, 2016, 2017.
Still is.
No, it's not. Yeah. Not as much, not as much weight here that it used to be 10 years ago. Because the biggest accounts, there was no 10 million subscribers yet on YouTube. It didn't exist. So the biggest ones were 100 million. You know what I mean? So that's when it was PewDiePie didn't exist. So just started out, all this big channel. Mr. Beast wasn't even out yet. He wasn't doing what he's doing now. So it was all very small. 5 million subscribers wasn't heard of. 10 million was, nobody had this, right? And we had 100,000. So it was cool. And then, we got them nominated for Teen Choice Awards by using Twitter. We got them touring, playing shows with, but back then it was Fifth Harmony, and then Bieber Rexha, Troye Sivan, all these artists. And they toured, they did all this stuff, then they decided, hey, we're famous, we need to be solo artists, ruined it for themselves, basically went completely downhill. And when I was like, now what? The boy band, I spent so much time, invested so much love and myself into it, so now what I do? And I was like, all right, well, what if I start a business that's gonna help musicians and basically help them promote music, and maybe somebody needs it. And it turned out to be everybody needed it. It was such a big void that nobody could fill. So I was one of the first people who did feel it.
Right. Yeah. Well, like we're saying, that's a huge job in and of itself. Forget making the art, making the music, just all that promotion and all that time.
Yeah, and studying it and understanding it. And learning it, and it's consistent learning, but consistent. Like, again, what I was doing a year ago, I'm doing completely different things now, completely different scale, absolutely. It's just completely, every single month, every single year, it's maneuvering to a different direction. If you fall behind, you're not going to catch up. So.
And now you're also getting into AI as well. You got, that's what Sound.me is
SoundMe
utilizes some
has
AI?
AI implementation in this, which is very interesting. And we basically what it does, it analyzes creators, right? We're like at the moment we're the biggest platform on the world for the TikTok influencers, and we started YouTube Shorts as well. So we have over 1 million creators worldwide. And the cool thing about sound is it works exactly the same as digital ads. If I want to start running my ad in Brazil now, I can press the button and start running the ad in Brazil. Same thing. I want creators in Brazil, I press the button and get creators in Brazil. And the way AI steps in, right? It analyzes everybody from, how much engagement creators get, right? Followers, likes, shares, comments, how often they're posting, what kind of content they're posting, are they training up, training down, whatever's going on. So all these points come to analysis, and then it tells the creator how much money they're going to make per post. So each campaign is different, each thing is different. So sometimes they can make, it depends depending on the budget, depending how we're going to break the budget. Sometimes they're going to make a couple $100, sometimes they're going to make a couple $1,000, sometimes they're going to make 10, $20. And it's always varies, right? And it's so cool to see it and be like, oh, this person's like, worth that much for the system. You can look at it and be like, oh yeah, this is what they're gonna get, this is what they're gonna make. And when we started it, right, my expectations were, oh yeah, I'm gonna get, maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll get thousands of people on the platform, and just try to work with them, try to figure out how to do it. And now we're over 1 million. It's been almost 2 years. In March 16th, it's going to be 2 years since we launched. So huge, fast, rapid. And it's still growing. It's still getting bigger. So
How do you service that many people?
cry every night. Cry every single night, like serving these people. It's hard. No, but see, all the jokes aside, like it's hard. It's hard to manage 1 million influencers on the platform. I did stuff, and we kind of like, I've run my own business, right, which is Simple Social, and it's fine. We're servicing a lot of labels, we're working with artists, we're doing this thing, right? But I've never been in a situation that all of a sudden I have 1 million people on my platform who I have to work with. So, and I had to figure out everything backwards, right? So, because usually people start small and they grow to it, right? They'll be like, oh, now I need to add this, now I need this. What means like, oh shit, now we have to add all of this. We have to get customer support. We have to get freaking people approving everybody, QC and quality control, like we had to raise up. We have to figure out the sales team. We have to figure out all this stuff, and we had to do it like really fast and be like, okay, now what? How are we gonna pull through with this? And it's really difficult. It's really difficult. And also like development too on the platform. How you gonna sustain? Because we have days that like 200,000 people doing something at a given time. It's a lot of people. Doing something like a lot of people doing things at the same time. So how do you make sure your website doesn't crash? How you make sure that everything is like, and also I didn't expect, I've learned so much within this 2 years that I didn't expect, right? Apparently every single time money is involved, there's going to be people who's going to try to lie to you. So how do you fight with them? People are going to try to steal your money. It's like not that many honest people out there, and you look at it, it's like, oh, okay, so that's how people cheat, and that's what they do. And they get smart, they get clever. I started seeing like people selling accounts, verified accounts from Sound.me on the platforms that they sell accounts. You can buy Google accounts, you can buy SoundMe accounts just because, and it's like a lot of this happening. People would lie about, what they are, what they're doing, and everything. And it's fun. It's really funny.
Yeah, I guess we've seen that for ages, right? We've seen that with social media, followers and bots, and I see it once in a while. They come at you various angles. They're offering me followers and subscribers, and it's damaging to your credibility ultimately 100%. To go down that road, because 100%. It doesn't take long for somebody to realize what's really going on here. Absolutely. And they see all these kind of make-believe people following in them.
Definitely. And you also, if you think about it, like I started to see a new one, right? The new thing that they started doing. So Spotify playlist, third-party playlisting is dying down. So it's pretty much Spotify is really cranking down on it. So it's going to be gone, sooner or later. But what I started to see is like there's still companies who do this third-party playlist. And they take artists, right? They find artists that new song been released. They go on Instagram. I think they scrape from IG, whoever posted and promoting it. So they add it on the third-party playlist. They get a lot of botted streams. And then they come to the artist and they do two things. The first thing they say, hey, you like how we're promoting it, so like, let's do more here. Give us money, we'll promote you more, put you on the more playlist. If you refuse, they're gonna say, okay, then we're gonna keep you and we're gonna bot you so hard, so pay us money to be removed. So now it's a new thing. So it's like if you got into that loop, it's like how you get out of it. And you're trying to do real career, you're trying to do real music, you're trying to get real promotions, and then somebody takes it, adds it, and is like, oh, you have to pay to keep staying here, or you have to pay me to keep to remove you. It's ridiculous. So, but yeah, that's a new thing that's starting to happen, which is scary.
So are there certain statistics that you find more reliable than others? There's obviously stuff like that can be gamed, right? If it's a bot playing the music, yeah, maybe you have hundreds of thousands of streams, but like if it's not really anybody listening to it, is there anything that you feel has credibility? Good data markers.
Advertising has credibility. Spotify tools have credibility in advertising. Mm-hmm. So if you advertise it for real and using Spotify tools, meaning like Marquee, like clips and things like that, that's what has credibility. Everybody who's doing third-party services, that's why I never outsource. I don't like outsourcing. The only things that I've been outsourcing people, and I stopped doing it this year, is third-party playlist, because I never got a chance to build my own Spotify playlist. I just was never my interest because I never seen a value in this. But some people want it, right? So I found good networks who actually did deliver. Now they're all gone. And I do everything in-house, right? And I think this is really important because if you come to somebody like and sell the service, there's in the music industry, there's a lot of people who resell stuff, right? A lot of people who resell other people's services, right? So I'm always trying to be the source. So I always want to be the source who people come to because I'm the one who's doing it, right? And what happens is when people go into, let's say they trying to do everything for real, they're trying to achieve things in the real way, right? And they're getting screwed, fixing it really hard. So I would I would never mess with this, but always try to find the source, I think, and for the tools and data, just look for Spotify, whatever they provide, whatever they tell you to use. I use Chartmetric and also your backend, the backend of your Spotify. If it looks like a roller coaster, it looks like a blueprint for Six Flags, then you're gonna know. You have to think about it like, will users behave like, today they're streaming my song 3,000 streams a day and tomorrow it's streaming 1 stream a day?
Right.
Is it user behavior? Do you user behavior? Like, how is it possible? Always think about it. This is mathematically possible. So, and I would also suggest never purchase services from the people who you don't know. Ask them questions, always talk to them and see who they are and what they're doing. Schedule a call. If you're not sure if you're going to spend a good chunk of money, schedule a call with them and talk to them and be like, hey, what are you doing? How are you doing? And if this is a lie about, oh, we're using networks, we have networks of advertisers, this is all lies of BS. Like there's no such thing exists. It's like, oh, I heard it all. Believe it or not, I've heard it all. I've seen it all, pretty much. But people say like, oh, we pay people to stream songs at night when they sleep. Put it in we're paying people we have networks of different advertisers. It's like, it's all a lie. We have pop-ups. It's all a lie. That doesn't exist. None of this working. None of this is real. None of this is true. So it's a bot that's trying to hide it. That's all it is. So always ask them questions. If they can't answer your questions, don't work with them. It's easy. Doesn't matter how persistent they are. They can provide you information that you need. There's other people.
It's a shame that we're trading real connections sometimes with real people. Like that's what we want music for, is to connect with people, to express ourselves. But we're trading it for the numbers, the followers, or the plays, or the stream numbers.
Because you always can people want shortcuts. People think they're shortcuts. And if somebody says, oh, all the record labels using us, you know how to tell that it's a fake company who's going to screw you over. You go on their website, this is for all of you who are watching, this is always a tell, no matter what. You go on the website, if you see a bunch of logos of different record labels, you see RCA, you see Capitol, you see Universal, you see, Epic Records, everything there, right? This is a fake website. There's no way in the world that they're gonna allow any of these labels will allow them to put the logos in. And if the label is gonna see it, all the business is done immediately. So, me working with them, like, I asked before. I asked, hey, can I use your logo? Absolutely not. There's not even a question. So you're not allowed to do that. And also many times they put Universal Music Group or Universal logo, right? And they always, for some reason, use movie logos because those are different logos. Universal Music Group and Universal Movies is completely different logos. None of them they're allowed to use, but legit companies will never put the logo in. Never. Because they know what's going on. You go to a Weibo website, you will never see any websites, like any links to the, to the big, and they're pretty big, right? They have a deal with Warner and they been servicing a lot of their labels as well, and they've been in business forever. Gapta, same thing. You go to Gapta and you're never gonna see it. It just doesn't. It's not there. Why? Because they're not allowed. They know the rules. You go to some bought like farm thing, they're gonna have all of them there. Showing like all this stuff. That's what labels use. Yeah, labels don't use that.
Mm-hmm. That's good to know because I've seen those before. Yeah. It's like, oh wow, everybody's into this.
Yep.
And you're right. A lot of those sites I can't find anymore. They
they're gone.
They disappear. Yeah. It's a tricky world out there for people trying to make it in the arts. In our email exchange, you mentioned that you recommend artists always start with singles. And this is always kind of a big question people ask. Do I do an EP? Do I do an album? Do I do singles? Why do you feel singles are the way to go?
Because for EP and for album, you have to have a demand. If there's no demand for the EP or no demand for mixtape or no demand for album, why waste the music? So there are two things, right? Spotify is asking for what? They're asking to put music out 4 to 6 weeks, in order to trigger the algorithm, in order to teach their machine learning.
That's what they want, every 4 to 6 weeks
4 to 6
to release.
Yeah. So, and imagine if you're putting out a song like once a month, right? And you have an album. Why don't you break this album? You have releases for every single month. This way you're going to trigger the algorithm. And eventually by then, like let's say you have 13 or 14 songs on the album. At the end of the year, you can bundle the rest together and make it into one album. But if you put a single, you're going to be able to promote each individually. Imagine this case, right? You put out this EP, right? Or you put out an album. You have no demand. You just decided to release an album. Are you going to be able to promote all 12 songs? Because songs, although songs don't die and they can resurface, but the songs also decay, right? So like if nobody's picking up on the record, like, how are you going to promote all them 12 together and how you're going to push every single song at the same time, and even then, even if you have like, let's say you have unlimited money to press the button and just keep going with this, right? You're still going to run into the issue like of crossing the audience and figure out like how you're going to look at the pattern of 12 different records at the same time. It's really hard. And expecting, the expectation here is you put out a lot of music, one of them is going to hit. But then you see none of them hit, and then what? Then you go back and to be like, oh, shoot, I wasted all this music. And I've heard it many times. Artists say this all the time. It's like, hey, I wasted my songs. And then what happens after? You put out an album, nobody wanted your album, nobody cared about the album. People wanted it, they just didn't know about it yet, right? Because it wasn't promoted to them. They didn't know. So you put out an album, and then you decide like, oh, I wasted all this music. You take album down, you release and start, I'm gonna start from scratch. That's the reason. The reason why it didn't work is like I need to rebrand. Okay, you remove all the music, you start over again. You do exactly the same mistake, work exactly the same thing. It just happens over and over again. And instead of like, put out one song and listen to your audience. It's good that you have an album. Your album's not going anywhere, right? Like if you put out within a year, you'll be fine. But listen to the audience, listen to what people are paying attention to. If it doesn't go, then put out the next song. You tried it, you spend a little bit of money, see what's going on, and then put another one, and then just continue to release it. Then you have 4 or 5, bundle it into EP. Cool. Put out 2 more 7 songs EP, great. So then put out a few more singles and then release a whole album. That's what I would do.
So it's multiple chances to stir up your audience, basically. You're getting, instead of one, and I've been I've done this myself, and I've seen people do it. It's like this big build-up. Oh, it's like a giant drum roll for your album to come out. And then it comes out, poof, and it's gone, like that week.
Yep.
Whereas if the 10 songs are spread out across 10 months, at least you get to do 10 kind of bursts.
And also you can do, I always was been big advocate, you can throw a cover in, you can throw a remix in, remix your music, allow people to reach out to DJs, get them to remix your music. Why not? And if they're gonna start, remixing your songs, you're gonna reach completely brand new audience with this. Let's say like, I'm not talking about Skrillex, not talking about Tiesto, not talking about those guys, right? But I'm talking about small DJs that just coming up. You go to them, you DM them and say, hey, you want to remix my song? He has like 50,000 followers on IG, for instance, and like, 100, 200,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. Great. You're small, he's small. He'll do it for free, most likely, because he wants to get somewhere too. He's trying to do exactly the same that you do. Why don't you unite with him and exchange fan bases? And he's going to hit your audience, release radar. You're going to hit his release radar. Just keep grinding with this. And you have another piece of material to put out. Russ, remember this rapper Russ? I always bring him up, right? So like you know who I'm talking about, right?
You said Russ?
Russ, Russ. Russ?
No.
No, he's pretty big. He's a big rapper. He's a big artist. And the biggest song he did was the song with Ed Sheeran. That's, they teamed up on the record. It was big.
Okay. Team up again, like you said?
Yeah, they teamed up with Ed Sheeran. But it was Ed Sheeran already was big. They met. I was blessed to promote this record. And Russ is independent, so I can talk about him. But they came and it's like, hey, we need a song with Ed Sheeran. Let's do it. So, we blew it up. It was fun. But when he was trying to break, right, he put out song every week, which is insane, which is a crazy amount of music to put out. So, yeah. So he put out a lot of music out. And he put out like every 52 songs in a year. So every week he put out songs.
So he's showing up in people's feed and algorithm over and over again.
And just over and over and over again. And eventually he blew up. He became pretty big. He built a fan base.
Right. And then if you say, let's cut that down to album sizes, that's 5 albums. So if he did 5 a year even, that's only 5 hits compared to 52 throughout the year, which is just much better numbers. It makes a lot of sense. Now, how do you feel about the format, the art form of album or EP, like a collective work of songs? Do you think that?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, certain albums are just digestible, classic albums like Sgt. Pepper's, Dark Side of the Moon, or, those types of things that are these like cohesive units. Do you think artists should stray away from that? Do you think that's like a form that maybe, only existed because that's what the medium allowed for? Are we looking at a different form maybe in the future as, we get deeper into streaming and things like that?
Let's take a look at this, right? So Sgt. Pepper came out, right? It came out in 1969, right? 1969, 1966. When did it come out?
I think 67, but
67. Okay, it came out in 1967.
We're in that time frame, yeah.
Yeah, somewhere there. How many albums besides Sgt. Pepper came out in 1967?
Yeah, a few.
Quite a few, right? And there's only one Sgt. Pepper, right? There's only one Dark Side of the Moon. There's only one White Album, right? So there are, out of all this album, I think people look at it and it's like, oh, all these great albums are dead. It doesn't exist anymore. And I don't think this is the case. I think we are witnessing same exact thing as people witnessed before. We just have more access to this, right? So I think back when Sgt. Pepper came out, probably like, I don't know, probably another like 20,000, 30,000 albums came out this year, probably. I would assume so, because music industry was pretty big by then, and how many of those albums stayed in the shadow and people didn't like and didn't become, legendary. I think now we still have albums that are actually really good albums, really good records that come out and have concept behind them, have a whole conceptual thing about it. It's just, I think it's the same. I think nothing really changed. I think artists should be always telling the story. They should always be telling story with their music, no matter what. It always has to be story. It's all about storytelling. And it's all about how you tell the story. If people believe you, right? So that's the thing. To me, it's like I have a lot of singers and artists who I believe, right? Like I listen to Freddie Mercury, right? The guy sings and I believe him. I believe that he's telling me a story, regardless, right? Doesn't matter what he's singing, I believe him. I believe a lot of modern artists, who singing to me and they're telling me a story. But there's a lot of artists who I don't like. But again, if I don't believe them, it doesn't mean other people won't. You know what I mean? So that's the magic.
Right.
So, but they always have to tell the story.
Well, I guess you could also think about it like almost like a chapter book in a way. If you're going to release, say, your 10 songs over 10 months, like a serial story, would a lot of novelists release their books as chapters in magazines for a while.
Yeah, of course.
So it's another style, I suppose. Then you can finally take it all in as one.
Yeah.
When that final single drops.
And if you look at rollouts, right? Like a lot of people don't pay attention to it, which is so I think it's so not. I think people missing a lot on those. Everybody believes there used to be a booklet that you open and you look at it and you hold it, right? But nobody pays attention what rollouts happening now. Like Harry Styles, I don't know if you've seen his rollout. They did a brilliant rollout on Harry's house, right? It was a website. It was a bunch of keys, and you had to do a whole scavenger hunt to find those keys. They would open the doors, and they would lead you to the website code that you can open and unlock. And on the day off, it just shows up the whole thing there. That was fun, right? And it's just they still coming out, labels still coming out with great strategies of the marketing. Just people who people just don't pay attention to them as much, but there's still some incredible rollouts, right? Like Charlie Puth, they had I remember that was when voice notes came out, right? There were pianos. I believe there was, I think it was voice notes. I don't remember exactly which one, but there was grand pianos hidden all over LA. And if you find them all, you would win a prize and things like that. So it's just there are things that happen all the time, just nobody's watching, right? And people looking at it, people who are not fans, who are not really paying attention, they're just another thing, whatever. It's just nobody's the music, the albums are done and nobody's paying attention to it. They don't have booklets and things like that. But I think if you're not a fan of the Beatles, and I'm not a fan of the Rolling Stones, right? For instance, was never my favorite band. I know nothing about them. I don't know what albums there. I don't even know the names of the albums because I never paid attention. Right? But I'm a fan of the Beatles. So I know a lot about the albums and a lot about the things and I looking deep into it. So same thing happens now. It's just if you're not a fan of the artist, that doesn't mean the artist is not doing a good thing. It doesn't mean that
those are cool ideas.
Yeah.
Those are great ideas. And yeah, I guess, that's what we had back in those days, right? We had booklets, we had records. So we were used to that, but maybe we're just need to pay attention to the new ways of
instead of album,
distributing our art.
Instead of doing the rollouts on the album, it just went, on the covers, it went online. So you still can do scavenger hunts and find things.
Yeah, maybe for my next release, I'll hide a bunch of guitars and synthesizers around the neighborhood and
try it,
release it that way.
As long as you have people who's gonna search for it, that's you can play it. You can play a lot of things. You can be really, really creative. And the label people, although a lot of artists, they don't like record labels. They think the record labels are evil. But the people who are working at the record label, some of them are brilliant. Some of them have such creative ideas, and they always pushing it out. And it's just I think labels just a lot of them just misunderstood because it's because every artist is the same way, and it's just I'm gonna keep saying it over and over again because it's true. It's a reality. Every artist thinks if I became famous, I made it. If I didn't become famous, it's label's fault. It's manager's fault. It's everybody's fault, not mine. It's everybody like that. There's no exceptions in this. Nobody looking at themselves and oh yeah, maybe I didn't post enough. Maybe I didn't tour enough. Maybe I refused to do such things. Maybe I didn't want to do it. Maybe I wasn't active enough. Nobody cares. No. It's their fault. They didn't make me famous.
Yeah.
So, and unfortunately, that's the truth.
As soon as you take responsibility for that, though, you have the power, right? If you blame others, you're the victim, and there's nothing you can do.
Of course.
It's a much stronger position to take, but maybe I could have done this or I could do that. And
every label is like a business partner, an investor. They take a huge risk with money, All this, everybody thinks it's they make so much money. They give me they give me advance and stuff like that. Ask for them. That's not true. They taking risk on you. They come, they taking risk. They investing their money, hard-earned money into your career, believing that you're gonna do what you promised them to do. There's no like, they're not buying physical product from you. They're not buying a can of Coca-Cola or like, a cup from you. They're not producing nothing. You just, if you feel like it, you will record music. You know what I mean? Yeah, you're going to be stuck in the country, but who's going to be able to hold you? So they take a humongous risk. It's a very risky business, and they still do it, and they give artists a big favor.
It's a good way to look at it because it's true.
That's how I see it. You don't need to have a label. You don't have to have a label, but you also have no right to talk bad about them. And you also can't talk bad about that it all, right? It's your choice. You don't have to go with a label. There's plenty of people who have successful careers without having a record label, but you have no right to talk smack about them. Even if you got dropped, even if you were signed and you got dropped, there's a reason why you got dropped. There's a reason why it didn't work out. There's a reason, and the reason is always you. It's not your team. Your team did fine. Your team does it every single day. They're professionals. Something has to do with something didn't connect, and it's nobody's fault. Maybe not your fault. My music didn't react. The NR believed in it. Song didn't connect. Oh well, it happens. It's really rare chances that your team is, especially if you sign to some big label, that your team suck. They don't suck. No. They're really high level pros. They don't get credited enough for what they do.
Yeah. It's a great point. Listen, I know we're at our stopping time, so I don't want to keep you any longer than that. We can send people to sound.me if they want to check out some of the work you do.
They can book their own campaigns and test out, try the influencer marketing campaigns with us. We have a very simple system that they can choose who they want to target, how they want to do it and everything. They can also reach out to me, on the email and, on advertising.me. There's my phone number. They can text me as well. So it's very easy.
Right. Well, I'll put that all in the show notes.
Beautiful.
And great. I thank you, and I thank everyone for listening.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Music Production Podcast. If you want to help support the show, the best thing you can do is tell a friend, someone you think that would enjoy the show. I'd also love it if you could leave a review wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want to support my work, you can go to brianfunk.com. I've got tons of Ableton Live packs, tutorials, samples. You can check out my book, The 5-Minute Music Producer, which gives you 365 short music-making activities to help you get started, stay inspired, and finish more music. And there's also the Music Production Club, where you get my latest releases as soon as they're finished. It gives you access to a community of like-minded people who are making music and sharing ideas. You can share your music, find new collaborators, and participate in our live meetings where we set up some kind of musical challenge and then make music together and share our results at the end. That's the Music Production Club. It's a lot of fun, and you can find that and everything that I do at brianfunk.com. Thanks again for listening to the show, and have a great day.